Well, I like making food that tastes good, and I don't even mind making food that tastes bad. But if I had to choose, I think I'd pick the former. So if you want to know how to make it a little bit better, but maybe not quite as good as it maybe could be, I think that you should listen to what I'm talking about. And if you learn a little something from this, well, I hope it served a purpose, and hey, that's what we're here for. Good, better. Nailed it! Woo!
Hello, and welcome to the Cook Better podcast. My name is Corey, and I am not good at a cold open. I have realized that this is the hardest part of every episode, is just this beginning intro area. And I don't really know what to talk to you about other than just to kind of update you on what I've got going on. And I guess that's kind of what this whole podcast is anyway. So that's what's happening now. That's what's going to happen. I hope you listened last week to the episode with Johnny. I thought that was a great, really interesting stuff that he had to say. I got a lot of good feedback about it. I will definitely be talking to him again. And, hopefully getting some other people in that do stuff. It's always, I've more and more love listening to, and maybe it's because I'm an old man, or becoming an older man, or whatever. I feel old when different things start to become interesting to me, because I remember when I was younger, like, why is every old guy interested in World War II and in just different stuff like that. And to me, anybody who's passionate about anything is interesting to me, and that's why I love podcasts in general. Usually, a podcast is out there because somebody's passionate about a certain topic. And so it really, to me, doesn't matter what the topic is. If the person telling the story or whatever is interested in it, I'm hooked. I want to know more. And it could be about, I don't know, model train building or gardening or cooking or whatever odd hobby somebody might have. Anything music related, obviously, building things, mechanic stuff, anything creative, or even just in general, a hobby is always interesting to me. And it's fun to listen to somebody who's interested and passionate about that subject, because it just gets me excited and interested in it. So, yeah, that's what's going on. I've had, summer's closing up here. It's coming to an end in a way. More just the free time that is summer vacation is coming to an end. Not so much for me, because obviously I work every day, and as an adult, summer vacation doesn't mean a whole lot other than your kids get to be home all day and not go to school. But that is going to change in a couple of weeks. So we're trying to embrace the last stretch of summer here and enjoy it while we've got it. And it's been great. It's been hot. I've got, it's as Johnny mentioned in the last episode, the things that I'm growing in my yard, it's hard to continue to be excited about things because it's been so hot and it's been dry, trying to keep things watered, and everything is difficult. But I am getting close to, the only things I've got planted, are a long wait for harvest. And my peach tree, the one peach tree that's has a lot of peaches, those are looking good and starting to turn color. They're going to be ripe here in about a week and ready to pick. My corn is getting real close with some of it. So I'm excited about that, to finally be able to pull, be able to, reap some harvest, so to speak. And I'll be looking forward to that. I don't know what I'm going to do with the peaches yet. I mean, it's not enough to can them, really. I might make one really good peach pie, maybe get away with 2 peach pies, some peach cobbler, I don't know. Or just some fresh peaches. That's always good, too. But I'll be doing that real soon. So I hope you've had a good summer. I know I have. And that being said, let's get into the meals from last week.
I can direct your attention to the meals from last week.
All right, let's see. What did I make this past week? I'm not seeing a lot of change. I'm not seeing a ton of progress, but we're still in the summer season, and I'm riding right along 50% again. But that's all right. The first night, I had praise team practice for church. I was playing music all night. Didn't really eat. I would like to think, I've heard of people doing talking about 24-hour fasting and saying how beneficial that is. I've honestly go quite often with 24-hour fasting, not because I'm intentionally doing it. Maybe there's a bit of a placebo effect if you're intentionally not eating in a 24-hour period. Maybe there is health benefits to it, and I just don't recognize that the effects are kicking in. That could be. But quite often, if I've got something going on at night, I just won't eat. And as much as I like food, that happens fairly often. And I might have stuff to drink, water or whatever, but it's not like I'm intentionally trying not to eat. It's just I'm busy and I don't feel like eating. So, and I'm really not much of a breakfast person. I don't eat anything in the mornings. And then I think that's probably not healthy. Because then I just eat a lot all at once, like 3 hours or 4 hours before I go to bed for dinner when I do have, when I am making something. So, yeah, probably not the best diet plan, but that's the reality of what I'm dealing with and what I do. So, I was playing music all night, so I just got home and whatever, just went to bed. I do intentionally make that decision every so often because my go-to quick snack is a quesadilla. And when I make a quesadilla, I put sour cream on it and I put all the other stuff and hot sauce. And so I know that eating that at 9 o'clock at night right before I go to bed is not a very healthy choice. So rather than do that, I will quite often just not eat anything. And so that's what happened. That being said, the next day I subbed for somebody that was on a golf league. And so I played golf all night, and then I got home and I had a quesadilla and did exactly what I can only make good decisions apparently 50% of the time at best. So but that was really good. That was my dinner that night. The following night, my daughter had a friend come over. It's summertime, and they were playing and doing whatever, but we made some spaghetti, and this was some spaghetti used hamburger meat in it. Again, I've mentioned before that I don't always use hamburger meat in my spaghetti sauce, in my pasta sauce, but every once in a while I do. I did this time, and it is an extra treat to have in with the sauce. So, sometimes you think of trying to eat a vegetarian meal every once in a while, and I never really think about it for whatever reason that spaghetti can definitely be a vegetarian meal if you have it with without any meat of any kind. Obviously, that's the definition of vegetarian, no meat. But I don't think of spaghetti as a vegetarian meal. I think of something with tofu or just eating raw vegetables or something like that, but not necessarily spaghetti. Anyway, this wasn't because it had meat in it. But it was good. Again, I'm not a real Italian. So I said we have spaghetti. We had elbow macaroni noodles. We had some of that left over from something, or we just happened to have those kind of pasta noodles in the pantry. So that's what I used. Honestly, the flavor is pretty much the same. And technically not spaghetti. It was more of a goulash situation with the macaroni noodles, but it was really good and tastes the same. Just a different shape. It is funny how a different shape can change the experience, so to speak. But it's not a huge deal. Put some Parmesan on it, whatever. That was really good. The next night, I had some chicken brats. Now, this is something you can't find. Well, you should probably be able to find it pretty much anywhere. But the Otto's, the place I go to, they have these chicken brats, and really, it's a different flavor than your pork brat because it's chicken, obviously. But then there's also, it's hard to pinpoint the real difference, but there is a difference there. And it's basically ground chicken in a casing, just like, pork would be ground pork in a casing and with whatever flavors. But these were a sweet Italian chicken brat. Texture's a little bit different for whatever reason, but they're really good. And just kind of a change of pace. Summer meals tend to be, what do you think of? You think of hot dogs, brats, hamburgers. And as you get into the last months of summer, that same meal doesn't sound, as, I don't know, that's exciting when it first gets warm out for me. Towards the end, I'm kind of sick of brats. But changing it up and having a chicken brat was a nice, just change of pace, change of flavor, same principle. So did that. Then the next night, this is a recipe that makes me kind of frustrated right here. And I got to tell you, I've said this probably in 6 different episodes. Obviously, I think you're noticing one pattern I'm noticing, whether you are or not, is that I eat a lot of chicken. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's better than the alternative of if I'm having a protein for it to be steak. If I eat as much steak or beef as I do chicken, I think that would be a little less healthy to have that much red meat. But we eat a lot of chicken. I am going to chalk that up as a win. But this is probably one of the best, if not the best, chicken recipes that I've ever had. And what is frustrating to me is that this recipe right here is possibly one of the most simple recipes there is. And a buddy of mine, Tate, shout out to him, has told me about this before and said it's his favorite and that I should try it. And it's not that I didn't want to try it, it's I kind of forgot about it. But when somebody tells me about a recipe, I get interested when it gets complicated because that takes some technique and feels like real cooking. Air quotes is what I'm doing at the moment. So envision that, real cooking. And when I hear a very simple recipe, I think, well, I'll do that when I'm bored and don't have a lot going on and want to make something quick. But the flavors I knew were going to be a hit and go well together. But until I tried it, I didn't really understand how good it actually is. And I guess I better tell you what it is so, quit teasing it and get to it. All right, you're going to need, here's your huge grocery list, okay? Chicken breast, Italian dressing, and Frank's Red Hot wing sauce. That's it. 3 things. And it is one of the best tasting chickens I've ever had. And the fact that it's so simple and so easy kind of makes me mad. But this is honestly one of the best things I've ever had. And I highly recommend trying it. And there's a couple different ways you can do it, but both ways involve marinating the chicken. I didn't know how much to do. I had 2 pounds of chicken breast, so I just put those in a Ziploc bag, dumped the entire bottle of Italian dressing in there. It was this zesty Italian dressing. And then roughly a 1/4 cup of the buffalo wing sauce, Frank's Red Hot. You could use regular Frank's Red Hot. You could probably do a Tabasco or something, or whatever your favorite hot sauce is. My recommendation is this Frank's wing sauce, because that's what I tried, and I know that's good, but I'm sure it would work with anything. Frankly, it would work without the hot sauce, too. I was a little worried, not for myself, because I could drink straight from a bottle of Frank's Red Hot and not have any issue, but I wondered how much my kids would like it having hot sauce in there. My kids loved it, and it's not real heavy on the buffalo flavor. It's there, but it's not overwhelming, even with a 1/4 cup. And you marinate it in there. I mean, I only did it for like 3 or 4 hours. and then put it on my Blackstone on the griddle. Tate has said that he only ever does it on the grill. The one thing I did like about doing it on the Blackstone is that I ended up with a gravy. Now, I like grilled chicken over charcoal or gas best, especially chicken breast. I love the charred ends and the way that flame flavors the meat, and it does taste a little bit different. But I don't have a charcoal grill and I don't have a gas grill. All I've got is my Blackstone for the time being. So that's what I used. The thing that I will say is beneficial to using a griddle of any kind, or you could do this in a cast iron pan right on the stove. That would work well too, is that I dumped the entire bag just right on my griddle. And what happened then is all that dressing with the Frank's Red Hot spilled out onto the griddle and immediately started to cook down, and it started to turn into a gravy. And I think that condensed down and cooked down on my griddle. I just kept moving it around, and it probably in volume got cut in half at least cut in half, if not by 2/3. So that whole big, you think of how big a bottle of Italian dressing is, and then a quarter cup of Frank's Red Hot, that shrunk down over the course of cooking the chicken to maybe a half cup's worth of sauce. And so it really cooked down and turned into some sort of Italian dressing Frank's Red Hot gravy. And it was so good. I had mentioned to Tate the following day, like, dude, you got to try this. Have you ever done it on a griddle or in a cast iron pan? And he hadn't. And I said, that was my big thing. I'd love the flavor of the chicken more. I told somebody else about doing this. I'm curious if they did or not, but I suggested cooking the chicken on the grill and then maybe throwing a cast iron pan on the grill as well. But when you do that, put the sauce in there or the marinade in there to cook that down, so you still get that gravy, that sauce to pour over at the end. And that would be the best combination in my mind. You get the grilled chicken, still's got that flavor because it was marinating in it, obviously, but you don't lose that sauce, which has just packed full. It concentrates the flavor when you cook it down, and so it just gets jam-packed full when you pour it over that chicken. And I made a baked potato with this. It was a great mild flavor. I put a little sour cream, a little cheddar cheese, and some salt and pepper. I didn't have any chives, and so I didn't do that. But it just, the mild flavor, the creaminess of a potato, the chicken had so much flavor that it was nice pairing it, so to speak, with a baked potato, because then that just is just goes well with it. When you have something so intense as that chicken was, to have something more mild alongside of it just worked really well. And I didn't have any vegetables that I made with it. I mean, the potato is a vegetable, but it just was a great combination. Highly suggest making it yourself because it was just so good. Can't say enough about it. But it's so simple. That's the frustrating thing. If when I do these like fondant potatoes or whatever, and it's a 45-minute process to cook something up, it feels like, yeah, of course it's going to take good. I labored over it and put a ton of effort into it and all that. And to have something with 2 ingredients and dump it in and marinate and then cook be so good is kind of, you know what I'm saying. It's not frustrating. It's nice that something like that can taste so good and be so simple, but I wish the things I spent 45 minutes on could taste as good, and some of them do, but not that. The following night was my anniversary, my wife and I's anniversary, our 18th anniversary, and so we went out to dinner, and we went out to a place called Pure Mex. Now, I like good Mexican food, at least as good of authentic type Mexican food as I can get here in Michigan. I don't know that, I haven't ever eaten in Mexico, so my ability to compare authenticity is based solely on the people that I've worked with telling me good things about where to go that are from Mexico and that kind of thing. But this place was really good, and I had the what was it called? Camarones de la Diabla. So, which is shrimp in de la Diabla means it should be, is that like of the devil or something? Which is not lovely phrasing, but that typically means it's going to be pretty hot. The shrimp was good, the beans, the rice, everything that came with it was good. It was not spicy. It was a tomato-based sauce it was a hot, like temperature-wise, it was a hot dish. Spicy is not anywhere in the should not be in the description at all. I have a high tolerance for spice. I understand that, but when I literally can't even taste any spice, it's very frustrating to go out to restaurants and I know I'm, whatever. I'm white, and maybe white people think ketchup is spicy, like some people I know would have a problem with it, or think black pepper is spicy, but come on, don't say it's spicy if it's not really spicy. Anyway, it tastes really good, just wasn't what I was hoping it would be, and it was definitely a tomato-based sauce that the shrimp was cooked in. Everything tasted good again. It just was false advertising, in my opinion. That's frustrating. Next night, we did some orange chicken and rice. This was a bag of pre-cooked chicken with an orange sauce over white rice. That was good. Frozen chicken meal, whatever. Not the best, but it was definitely, I like it. And it was a quick thing to make. And then last night I had a tomato sandwich. Fresh tomatoes from the garden, a little mayonnaise, a little cheese, a little mustard on toasted bread. Fantastic. It is hard to beat that, in my opinion, in the summer. Just a tomato mayonnaise sandwich. Again, I had other things on it, but fresh tomato sandwich, no meat, and just letting the tomatoes do their thing and be the main flavor, and so good. And that was the meals from last week. It's just great to get some fresh stuff getting some stuff from the garden and incorporate that. Sorry about that noise. And that's what we had. That's what I had. That's what I made. Let's get into this week's topic. Onions. This topic came to me, and I am struggling a little bit to find topics. I know that's not something I'm supposed to say as the host of a podcast about cooking. I'm 28 episodes in. I should not be running out of topics, and in a way I'm not, but I'm trying to think of things that could be a little more interesting. So if you've got ideas, please let me know. Leave a comment. No comment is too out of the question or whatever. And maybe it's not about cooking. Maybe it's about, I don't know. Maybe I'll do one on cast iron. I use cast iron quite often, and I could definitely do an episode on that. I'm open to suggestions, but onions. This one came to me after talking with Johnny. And the reason for that is he has got a boatload of onions that he's been growing. And like he said, he just cuts them up and puts them in a pan until they turn black. Which, hey, in some ways, there's nothing wrong with that. You're eating your fresh produce. Anybody, and I'm not speaking just to Johnny, but in general, like he said, I don't know why you have me on this podcast. I don't really know much about cooking and whatever, but we all eat. And so it is interesting to me that's okay or whatever. It's not okay. That's great. Not just okay. That's awesome. And because you're cooking food that you grew at your house and you're eating that for dinner, even if it's what I would, maybe I would do something a little bit different. But in a way, I'm a little bit jealous. And I hope nothing I'm saying here is going to sound like I'm ever talking down to anybody. But, this applies to other things too, in that if that's the way that he's going to cook the onions and the vegetables of any kind, carrots, potatoes, whatever, if you're good with putting them in a pan and roasting them or sauteing them until they turn brown, and that's all you are going to do with it, and that is perfectly fine with you, and that tastes great to you, and you're going to eat that, and you do eat that, that's awesome, because I don't do that, and I always think I got to get more involved. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but it's kind of, I listen to like the John Christ, he's got a Net Positive as his podcast, and he was just talking about like a dopamine thing where with him, like he can't be alone and sit at home and do nothing. His example was his girlfriend was going to be gone for the weekend, and so he was talking about flying down to Miami to go see Coldplay. Then after that, leave from there, fly to Indy, do a NASCAR event, and go see that. And it was all this, like, you start doing things. His point was you start doing things, and then you have to continually elevate your experience in order to get that dopamine rush. Like when you're a kid, just going to the park and swinging on the swings and going down the slide is a huge dopamine rush compared to just playing in your backyard. But as you're getting older, you need to do more and more things in order to experience the same level of excitement that you did for that first thing. Another, like the Amish, Friday nights, they're not going out and getting drunk and doing that stuff. They're playing shuffleboard, and that's a ton of fun. But for you and I, going and playing shuffleboard is going to be boring and not exciting. But based on the rest of your life or whatever, for them that's so. Yeah, I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but the point is, I think the same thing with cooking. If you've eaten something some way, and some people would say it's maybe a little bland, whatever, but if you like it, that's great. The problem is if you start changing the flavors and elevating your cooking, then now you've got to continue to do that in order to reach the same level of satisfaction as you used to have with something basic. Like, I was perfectly fine with a boxed macaroni and cheese. Growing up, that was my favorite food, boxed macaroni and cheese and a hot dog. But now once I make macaroni and cheese from scratch and everything like that, if I make a boxed macaroni and cheese, it's like, I've got nostalgic flavors that make it taste good for that reason. But as far as this is not good to me anymore. And so I think it's similar that, you start to, if you're good with the way you're cooking something, even if it's not something fancy, great. Nothing wrong with that. You're cooking. So, and you're cooking for you and your family. So it's great. But he has all these onions. I say all that. He's got all these onions, and he said, what would you do with these? And I didn't really give him a lot of answers. My immediate thought, I've got a bunch of things that come to mind. And I'm not a chef. I enjoy cooking, and I can cook some good food, but there are so many things you can do with onions especially, and I think that's why people grow a lot of them. Because other than the obvious ones, like putting them in salsa, using them for sauces, pasta sauce, pizza sauce, and just kind of having them like that, I think that they just... onions are so versatile and are part of so much cooking that you think of the, like your mirepoix and they call it the Holy Trinity, like down south in Cajun cooking, you got your bell pepper, onion, and celery. Is that right? No, carrots. No. Carrots, onion, bell pepper. I don't remember what the Holy Trinity is now, and I'm not going to look it up while I'm talking. But a mirepoix is normally carrot, celery, and onion. And so onion is just like the essential part of so much of cooking that you can use it for so many different things. But these aren't like onion-forward situations. So other than that, the first thing when I think of onions that comes to mind when I see a big old bag of onions and I wonder what am I gonna do with this, is French onion soup or any type of caramelized onion. And I love caramelized onions. The flavor changes so much that you get such a sweetness and in an umami flavor that comes from caramelizing the onions, that even if you're not doing a French onion soup and you're just caramelizing the onions, you can make like bacon jam with it and put some bacon in the caramelized onions, let it get cold, and it's great to top burgers with or whatever else you might put it with eggs or an omelet. And It's really easy to do. You just have to finely slice all of your onions. Now, these are all going to get cooked down so much that it doesn't really matter, but I would do a thin slice, just because a relatively thin slice, and try to keep it uniform because, as always, you want things to cook at the same rate. So you're going to put them in a Dutch oven or a pan or whatever you're going to use to cook. And I'll do it with a little bit of butter and a little bit of oil, and then just a little bit of salt. Some people, I've heard of people doing a little bit of sugar in there as well. I don't really do sugar. I think you get enough sweetness. That sugar does help to caramelize, but I don't think it's 100% necessary. Again, I'm not a culinarily trained chef, so the technical right way might involve different things. And you can throw like a bay leaf in there too for some added flavor, or some pepper or whatever. But the base of it is you just got your fat, your butter, your oil, and a ton of thinly sliced onions. I mean, you can do 5 or 6 whole onions, and this is going to be a giant pile. But when it cooks down, it's going to kind of disappear. Now, if you're making French onion soup, you're going to need a little bit more unless you're making a small amount. And these onions are going to take, you're not caramelizing onions in 15 minutes. These are going to take some time. They got to sweat out, and then it's going to be over a medium-low heat, and they're going to take 45 minutes to an hour to cook down. And maybe that's being generous with the time. Somebody might say it takes longer. Somebody might say you can do the same thing in a shorter time with a higher heat as long as you're continually stirring, whatever. But low and slow is the way I would recommend. And all that moisture kind of sweats out. But you're left with onions that still have moisture in them. And I don't know what that is with the fat and with the moisture coming out that just combines and makes it all just come together so good. And then if you're doing a French onion soup, then I think you use a little red wine, maybe some beef broth. I don't have a recipe in front of me, but I'm thinking that's kind of, deglaze the pan with some red wine and get that fond scraped off and let the alcohol cook out of that, and then add some beef broth. And then I don't know if that's really the French onion soup recipe, but and then some good toasted bread with some cheese on top. Oh, it's so good. And you can get that at a lot of restaurants. It's really hard to beat a good French onion soup. And even a bad French onion soup's pretty good. But that was kind of one of the first things that I thought of. The other thing that I really like doing with red onions especially is a quick pickle on a quick pickled red onion. This seems like an odd thing sometimes until you make it and realize how quick you can actually pickle some red onion. And then you put it on, I like it on eggs. I like it on tacos. It's really good on tacos. There are so many things that it's good to top with. You can do sandwiches or something. Throw some pickled red onions on there. And to quick pickle, I kind of do, I think it's equal parts of water and like distilled vinegar, white vinegar. You could do an apple cider vinegar, any kind of vinegar. And maybe a little bit of salt. And that's really all you would need to do it. You could put a little sugar in there. You could put a little black peppercorn in there, a bay leaf, whatever. Dress it up. But your basic thing, really, you can do it with a little water and a little vinegar. And just heat that up on a pan, and you have thinly sliced your red onion and put it in a bowl, and then just dump that hot liquid in there and let it sit. And while you're making your dinner or cooking the rest of your food, I mean, it really only takes about a half hour for those onions to start to pickle. And you'll notice the color change. You've obviously, in a red onion, got that purplish color on the outside. But over a course of even a half hour, 15, 20 minutes, it'll all start to turn kind of pink. And that flavor is so good. And once it gets cold, it just works well with like I said, with eggs or I really do like them on tacos. Just some pickled red onions as a garnish, is so good. Some of the other things I've made, if you got green onions, like scallions or whatever, I'll do like a onion wrap. I don't know what the actual name is. It's kind of like pickle wraps, but using the onion. My mom used to make these when I was younger as an appetizer for different get-togethers and stuff. And it would be some, you take some ham or some salami and whatever you want to use. Ham's usually what I would use, and spread some cream cheese on it and roll that white end, the bulb end of a scallion in it, and that's it. And it makes a great snack. You just bite off the end of it. You got a green onion, you got the ham, and you got the cream cheese, and that's a great snack, a great appetizer, easy to make, and one way to use some onions. The other thing I've done is taken a whole onion and just made like a bloomin' onion at home. And this is really easier than it would seem. There's a ton of recipes for doing it at that you can find on on Pinterest or whatever. But I've just done it. You can just wing it. And if you don't want to make a bloomin' onion, you can make onion rings, or you can make onion petals, like deep fried onion petals. And to do that, you just quarter an onion and just peel off, chunks of the layers, and you end up breading those and throw them in the deep fryer. And if you're making a bloomin' onion, kind of the same way. I really like Drake's, the fry batter stuff. And I've done it a couple different ways. I've just made the Drake's batter, mix it with a little bit of water, and, cut the onion kind of almost all the way through, and then spread it open and just dip the whole onion in the batter and put it in the deep fryer, and you're good to go. I've added a little panko to a Drake's just to add a little bit more crunch to it. I've tried using the dry mix that the Drake's comes in the box and coating the onion with that first, then putting it into the wet batter, and then frying it that way. That works too. There's just, that's something I've done with onions, and that was, a good way to do it when you're deep frying. I'm sure you could air fry doing this kind of thing too. I just really don't know anything about air fryers, if I'm being totally honest, because I don't really, I don't have one. And so I know absolutely nothing about them. I do like a deep fryer. I'm not opposed to an air fryer, but I don't need another piece of gadget in the kitchen. And honestly, I'll use my oven I don't know. If I'm that worried about something being fried, I probably just don't need to have it. I think I'm not so concerned with eating healthy that I'm going to air fry stuff. But my opinion might change if I ever get one and try it out, and then that might be the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't know. I'm not like hard opposed to it. I just don't need that right now. I don't need an air fryer in my life right now. So that's where I'm at with that. But onions there's just, I can think of 100 different dishes, but it's all just incorporated, and you almost want it to disappear. You want the flavor of it. One of my favorite things anytime I just make a chicken breast, grilled chicken breast, or even with steak or something like that, is to have a sautéed mushroom and onions to eat alongside of it. I think that the onion and the mushroom just add so much to chicken or a beef or anything that you're making that it's a great thing when I've just got instead of a sauce, or if I don't have a sauce on something, I will have mushroom and onion that I'll eat alongside of it, and it just adds so much to the overall dish just with that flavor. So I always have onions in the house. I buy them every week because they just go in so many different things that they're just great. And then to use them in a roasted vegetable situation, like what Johnny was talking about, just having them along with your potatoes and your carrots and your Brussels sprouts or whatever. Certain onions go better with certain things. I like when I'm doing a roasted onion, personally, I like a red onion. But if it's a white onion or a sweet onion or whatever I might have, I'll use it. But if I'm choosing it for that specific purpose, I'll lean towards a red onion typically. But do whatever you like, Usually a red onion's used a lot more when it seems to be, it's eaten kind of by itself and closer to a raw state. Typically a red onion is what is going to be used. You think of like a salad at any restaurant, it'll have raw red onion. And I don't know, it's just a little bit of a milder flavor compared to a white onion. But that being said, like in Mexican cooking or in like tacos and stuff, it's cilantro and raw white onion on it on tacos, and I do that quite often too. So I can contradict myself as I talk, right? That's okay, I think. Why not? I'm just thinking of more examples of where, well, never mind, you would use, you would eat white onion raw in that situation. And it really, it's not a huge deal. It doesn't really matter, but whatever you prefer. And I think of shallots too. Again, I said before in previous episodes that shallots I thought were just use red onion, but use less of it. I don't think that's, you can do that, but there is a milder flavor in a shallot or a shallot if you're Jamie Oliver, than there is in a red onion. And so there is a little bit of a difference there. And I do like shallots when I'll cook it in along with Brussels sprouts sometimes. I like to use a shallot for that as opposed to a red onion. But a red onion's great too. It's all great. They all have similar flavors. I don't know what the family is, the onion family. You got chives in there. Growing chives is great because that you can slice up and garnish on anything. Scallions are used as a garnish too, and really a very, when you don't have them, you realize a garnish sometimes in my mind I think of, it's unnecessary, it's just there to make things look better. And that might be the case sometimes, but when it comes to a green onion, you think of pho or ramen or a lot of Asian cooking. Scallions fresh scallions are put on the end on top of the dish. And when you don't have them there, that freshness is just gone, because when you've got stuff cooking in liquid like ramen or whatever, you've got the richness of the broth and the noodle and everything, and just to get some freshness in there, that onion is just so good. And you can top anything with a green onion right at the end, and it adds I love the flavor of it. Even like I said before, I'll do pickled red onion on top of an omelet or something like that. And then if you just add the scallions on top of that, just cut on a bias and shaved real thin, it just puts a freshness there that's good. And that onion flavor is just such a key element to almost every cooking, any sauce. I use a lot of shallots or onions in general for any sauce I make or a glaze that you're going to cook down. And a lot of times, to get a velvety texture, you'll cook the onion with garlic and whatever in a butter or make a cream sauce or something like that. And something I've been doing lately, although it makes no difference whatsoever to flavor, but just to texture and visually, is to run something through a cheesecloth, and then you're taking the chunks of the onion out and garlic and stuff like that and leaving behind just this velvety, pure, smooth sauce. I always feel kind of bad when I do that, only because I'm like, these onions, I'm just sucking the flavor out of them and then throwing them away. It feels like you should be actually eating them. But the essence, taking the essence from the onion and infusing it into a sauce, and then discard the rest, and you're not good enough to go in the finished dish, you're going in the trash. But it's still all there, and so that's a great way to just create a nice sauce that looks good. Because you get a cream, like a Dijon mustard sauce or a mustard cream sauce, I do quite often with some chicken, and that gets a yellowish tan color to it, and when you got little chunks in it, not to make it sound too bad, but you start to get it looks vomit-like, which sounds really bad, and I'm sorry for that, but it's true. And so when you strain out the chunks, then it's just this nice cream-colored, tan sauce. And sometimes chunks look a little off-putting. Does it matter in the long run? In reality, no, it doesn't matter. Leave them in there. Don't get stuff dirty. Do whatever you want. I'm just making more dishes. Sorry. I try to clean up all the, I do a lot of the cleanup. My wife does a ton of it. So as well. I appreciate that very much. But I don't know if I do it wrong. I don't think I do, but she's doesn't like dishes sitting for more than 10 minutes in the sink. So she'll jump on the dishes. And so I'm sorry for making extra dishes because I wanted a perfectly smooth sauce instead of one with chunks in it. But that's just another use of the onions. They're just so versatile and, again, part of every dish. So I don't know. That's kind of what came to my head. I'm sure I'm going to think of a few more things. You can eat them raw. You can put them in salads. You can do, all this stuff with them. You've probably thought of some things, or just roast them like we've talked about earlier. Just roast them until they turn black, whatever. As long as you're eating them, that's what really matters. And then you're making food at home. That's the key, right? That's what this whole thing is. This whole podcast is just to encourage people to be cooking at home. So if that's what you're doing and that works for you, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Pearl onions, you can grow those. Those you can just cook whole and saute them. Those are really good. I don't know. All this stuff's just popping into my head. You can confit pearl onions. I've seen that done before, just like in olive oil, just sits at a low temperature. That's a whole thing, or doing it with garlic too. You can confit. I don't know which one it is, but you know what I'm saying. So there's that as an option too. Anyway, that's, a little bit shorter of an episode, not too crazy. But I hope that gave you some ideas on what to do with onions. If you got a big old storehouse of onions, maybe a couple extra ideas on how you can cook them. Or if you just want to go to the store like me and buy them because you're not growing them and come up with something to do with them. That's great too. Hope this gave you some ideas. Leave me a comment. I'm all about it. I'd really appreciate it. I would love some more ideas on what to talk about with cooking and some episode ideas. If you got nothing else, I'll continue on. That's okay. But shoot me your ideas. Leave a comment. Leave a rating. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for listening. I am enjoying doing this, and I love that you are listening. So I appreciate it. Can't say it enough. And all that being said, I guess I will talk to you next time.